The lesson, kids, never stay up to see Santa or you will face the consequences, and oh, will there be bad consequences. I'm Joe Renton with the retro review of Deadly Games, aka Dial Code Santa, aka Game Over. It came out in 1989, it's a French film, but it was kind of in obscurity. You could get it through a bootleg copy, but now it's available on Shudder. That's another reason why I love to have Shudder. It's a great streaming service, especially if you're a horror movie fan. No, I'm not sponsored. I just wanted to shout them out right there. Also, thank you very much, my friend Karen down in Arizona. Thank you very much for this recommendation. I really do appreciate it. Always great to talk horror movies with her. She likes some things I don't like and vice versa. But I was interested to see this because just basically put Home Alone in a horror movie setting and put it in France. That's pretty much what this is. Like, it's pretty goddamn jarring. Not everything's perfect. There are some moments where I'm like, okay, these characters are just doing stupid shit to advance the plot. So, horror movie 101. But here's a basic plot before we get into a few spoilers a little bit later. You know, for those that haven't seen, I mean, yes, it's been out for 31 years, but if you have not seen this movie, I'm not going to spoil everything until a little bit later on. There's a killer, there's a family, and it's centered around Christmas, and this killer just has one mindset, to kill. That's basically fucking it. He's goddamn psychotic. And the boy's also a genius, and he's also very smart and everything, and he's able to lay traps, like, you know, in Home Alone and stuff like that. And the comparisons are always going to be there. But bear in mind, this came out a year before that. Now, the nice thing about this is it has that feeling of isolation, since it's taking place during Christmas, and it's at a really fancy mansion, but there's a whole lot of snow. They have an isolated, you know, it has an isolated feel to it, and there's just two people and this killer. And it's really fucking goddamn jarring. Like, you're like, holy shit, there's some good stuff here. And the guy playing the killer, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the names, because I do not want to be, I don't want to screw it up. The actor playing the killer is pretty goddamn good. But here's the basic plot. You got a boy named Thomas, or Tommy, depending on the captions, who's an adventurous boy, who's a genius. He can even work on computers. You know, those very early computers from the late 80s, early 90s that were like the size of a goddamn, like, you know, brick house. It was absolutely insane. They had like maybe 50 bytes of RAM, but, you know, they were cool at the time. And he, you know, can even hook up cameras and check out this stuff. He can even do some really good inventions. He's got like this almost like power glove like thing that he uses to control stuff in the house. And he has to do that because he lives with his mother, who's always at work a lot. And the father's not there. The father passed away. I don't remember what they said exactly happened. The father either passed away or I think he passed away. And the grandfather's also there. The grandfather is half blind and also diabetic. That's going to factor in a little bit later. And the mother goes off to a work meeting, also to see a guy that she's seen at her work, but to work on stuff because she works at a department store chain. And she's like, hey, we need to get this stuff ready. We need to, you know, throw all the money together to have a great holiday motif to really boost sales. And all the while, Tommy plays games with his dog, you know, really, you know, just fun, scruffy dog and everything. Just, it's a boy and his dog and the grandfather's, you know, well-meaning, loves his grandson, and, you know, him and the boy have a really good rapport. And from there, we cut to where there's this bearded guy who's just kind of wandering around. In the very beginning of the movie, he tries to have join a snowball fight with a bunch of kids, but the kids vanish, so he feels abandoned, and he basically decides to go work at the mall or the department store that, you know, the mother is like controlling, and, you know, get a job as a Santa. And the reason he does this is because he comes in contact with Tommy through a computer program. And from there, things get really goddamn crazy and everything, and they get really goddamn dark. I mean, really dark. And there's a very, you know, huge feeling of dread where you're just like, this guy ain't gonna fucking stop unless somebody stops him. Like, there is no way to stop this guy by just reasoning with him. And from there, you know, you get, like, you know, the isolation feel, because eventually there's the usual showdowns, and Tommy has to use his wits and his inventions to, you know, save himself and also his grandfather. And there's some really, really cool moments and some really, you know, cool spots where, you know, this killer, this, you know, guy is like trying to, like, you know, just do what, you know, just laser focused on committing these horrible crimes. And it's actually really kind of funny because there's some good dark comedy here, but a lot of it's just straight horror, and it's pretty good. It's like pretty goddamn scary. Pretty goddamn scary, especially for a late 80s, early 90s movie, because some of those movies almost look the same, but just thinking about the fact that, like, this could actually happen. I mean, and no, it wouldn't. This is, much in fantasy. But the idea of actually being targeted by somebody that it just has that laser focus is pretty goddamn jarring. I'm going to get into spoilers here a little bit, though, for those that have not seen the movie. And I'm just saying, it's like, I'm pretty certain quite a few people have seen this, bootleg or otherwise. But I will say, do see this movie. It's a really good Christmas horror movie. Very rare hidden gem on Shudder. But anyway, spoilers, 3, 2, 1, and go. Okay, so this guy, this killer, bearded guy, works as a mall store, department store Santa, that is, and kind of, he's not really working there very long, and then he kind of scares one girl or whatever, and the girl says, "You're not the real Santa," pulls the beard down, stuff like that. Well, he slaps her. That's the one thing you want to do when you're a vicious killer. Call attention to yourself. Granted, he doesn't really care what he doesn't really think his actions will have consequences, and basically what happens, he ends up getting fired. Well, okay, he decides to just go on a goddamn killing spree. He had earlier contacted Tommy via this computer program, like a message thing to talk to Santa, but it's just a way basically for this guy who possibly could have been somebody that wanted to get to kids like that. Maybe they don't do that, but it was sort of implied, is trying to just find out where Tommy lives. He gives him his address because, Tommy thinks that he's talking to Santa. He's a genius. He's a smart boy. He loves his family, but he's also a boy that still believes in Santa. Nothing wrong with that. But this guy finds out where the address is, and then instead of leaving after being fired, he hides in the company van that's giving gifts out to people. He's going to go get some gifts, or he's going to go give some gifts, rather, to Tommy's household, just like a mother's way of saying, "Hey, I'm sorry I can't be there," but give them to the caretaker's house. They'll take them up to him. Okay, cool. Here's the problem. The killer's hiding in the van. The killer decides to just basically kill the caretakers. And Tommy has come up with this crazy idea, also of putting cameras up and, just staying up to see Santa. The mother is talking on the phone and says, "Well, you shouldn't see Santa because if you see him, he'll get mad and turn into an ogre." And that line actually gets repeated a little bit later. The one thing I could have done without is a dog dying, and I do get why they did it, because it was motivation for Tommy to, really get mad. But I could have done without that. I'm not a fan of animal violence in movies. I'm not going to downgrade the movie too much for it, but, I got to be consistent. I mean, and I get it. It still bothered me. I'm like, you could have done that off camera. You could have. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys feel the same way about animal violence in movies? Answers in the comments, please. But anyway, Tommy sees this and he's like, "Well, holy shit, this actually isn't Santa." Or, "Oh no, my mom was right. Santa's mad. Thinks it's a deadly Santa." And he basically gets to save his grandfather. There's this hidden passageway that his dad showed him before he died. And it's full of toys and everything, but it's this hidden passageway under, in between the house, or underneath the house. And it's a really, really cool area that you go into the basement in, and it's hidden and nobody knows where it is. Well, of course, naturally the killer does find it. The chase is on. Tommy basically has to protect his grandfather. His grandfather does need his insulin eventually. That factors in a little bit later. The mother can't get a hold of the house, so she decides to drive back, and in the snow, unfortunately crashes. She has her boyfriend / co-worker. Basically, he has to drive out there and see about the house. And Tommy rescues the grandfather literally within just a few seconds of getting stabbed. He traps the guy in some weird locker room, some thing where it's almost like a weird sauna where he just turns the heat on and everything. He's frying him, but the guy somehow manages to get out. And there's a chase in the snow, which is actually a little bit... Tommy didn't decide to wear shoes very often. I don't understand why. Maybe he didn't get frostbite. But he did say to him, "This is my home, you killed my dog, and you're going to be sorry you ever came here." And mind you, it's all in French, so I'm just going based on what the translations are. I don't speak French. I barely speak English. But the montage to fix, some traps and everything, and also bury his dog. And buries him in the basement. There's some ground in the basement. It was a nice tribute. Gang could have done without the dog dying. But then he sets some traps like darts that shoot out into the guy's neck, and, sets up a... sets up some fire on the ground. He shoots a dart and some fuel that burns the guy's face and everything, and kind of burns his suit. And this guy just basically is just fucking zeroed in. It's Santa Jason Voorhees. there's this grenade train thing that he tries to do. It doesn't really work, and he hides his father in the suit of armor, or his grandfather rather, in the suit of armor because he doesn't want the grandfather to be seen. Well, eventually the grandfather needs his insulin. The cop arrives, walks around, he gets killed because, of course, they only sent one goddamn cop. French police not exactly being smart in 1980s horror movies. And there was earlier in this film, like during the montage, he actually managed to somehow place a tracking device on the killer so you could always see him. Killer ends up removing the tracking device because he figured out where it is. It was like somewhere on his back. There's a game of hide and seek because the killer catches him and says, okay, you count to 20. And then Tommy leaves soon, gets in the cop car that's still there, and drives to the caretaker's place to get the insulin. But then the killer's in the back, says, you're cheating us, kind of stuff, and then a car crash. He ends up shooting the guy because he gets the cop's gun, and he has the gun with him, but he runs, saves the grandpa. The guy's still alive. The grandfather, who's half blind, by the way, has to shoot him and not shoot Tommy. He basically says, Tomas, get down. Shoots him. The mother and the the co-worker, boyfriend, whatever, arrive. And the mother's like all upset because she sees Tommy caked in mud and everything because he's been outside and, in the mud with this killer. And the killer's there dead because the grandfather shot him. So he's been shot twice. So he's clearly dead. He actually is. They didn't actually show him come back. And the mother's like, all this. And the guy said, and the kid says, I'm sorry, it's my fault. I just want to see Santa Claus turn into an ogre. They repeat all that stuff. So yeah, Merry Christmas. The kid's fucking traumatized. It's a great movie, though. It's a great movie. I'll say B+. I will say that. It's not my favorite Christmas horror movie, but it's certainly a hidden gem, and I gotta say B+ because it's a really good slasher. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm Charles Ritlin. I'll see you soon.